The aftermath of battle had its own particular smell: ozone from fried electronics, the metallic tang of vaporized hull plating, and something Lieutenant James Rivera could never quite identify, but always recognized as the scent of survival against impossible odds. Kepler Station rotated slowly against the stars, half its modules dark, the other half flickering with emergency power that painted orange stripes across the debris field. Rivera's boots maglocked against a twisted beam as he swept his medical scanner across the wreckage. 3 hours since the Dominion forces retreated, and he'd pulled 7 survivors from what everyone was already calling a victory. Victory. Rivera snorted inside his helmet. Victory meant you had enough people left standing to count your dead. Sector 7 clear, he reported, about to move on when his scanner chirped. Not the steady pulse of human life signs or the familiar patterns of the station's other resident species. This was something else, a rhythm that seemed to hiccup every third beat, accompanied by an energy signature that made his equipment practically whimper in confusion. He pushed through a tangle of cables that had once been someone's communication array, following the increasingly erratic signal until he saw her. At first, his brain tried to make sense of what he was seeing by filing it under human female critical condition, but then the details started registering. The armor wasn't human design. It flowed like liquid metal frozen mid-pour, with symbols that hurt to look at directly. And when she turned her head at his approach, he saw the ears. Elongated, tapering to points that would have looked ridiculous if not for how naturally they suited her angular face. Princess Lyrale of the Ashanti Coalition, though Rivera wouldn't learn that for another 30 seconds, was crawling through vacuum on her elbows. Her armor, that magnificent piece of engineering that supposedly could withstand a direct hit from a plasma cannon, was cracked like an eggshell. Bioluminescent fluid, blood, his medic brain corrected, leaked from the fractures, forming perfect spheres in the zero gravity before freezing into amber pearls. "Hey," Rivera called out on the universal emergency frequency. "Stop moving. You're making it worse." She turned those violet eyes on him, and even through 2 helmet visors and what had to be tremendous pain, she managed to look annoyed. "Thank you, human. I hadn't noticed the excruciating agony. I thought I was crawling for the exercise." Despite everything, Rivera felt his mouth twitch toward a smile. He treated enough patients to know that the ones who kept their sarcasm were usually the ones who survived. He moved closer, hands raised to show the medical symbols on his suit. "Lieutenant Rivera, combat medic. I'm going to help you, but I need you to stop moving." "I can't." Her voice carried an accent that made standard sound like music, all flowing vowels and soft consonants. "The armor's compromised. If I stop, the emergency protocols will lock it down, and I'll—" She didn't finish, but the way her hand clutched at her midsection told him enough. Rivera reached her just as her strength gave out. She collapsed against him, and even through his suit, he could feel the heat radiating from her armor. All wrong, too hot, like a fever dream made metal. His scanner went crazy as he ran it over her, throwing up error messages and biological readings that the database couldn't parse. "It hurts," she whispered, and for a moment the princess mask slipped. She was just someone in pain, someone scared. Her hand pressed against her abdomen below where the chest armor ended. Down there too, where the armor couldn't. Rivera's first thought was shrapnel. The Dominion loved their fléchette weapons, nasty things that turned hull breaches into clouds of microscopic knives. But his scanner wasn't showing any foreign objects. Instead, it displayed something that made his blood run cold. An energy signature spreading through her body like ink in water, following pathways that seemed specifically designed to target her alien physiology. "Your bedside manner needs work, human," she managed between gasps that weren't quite sobs. "Usually someone buys me dinner first before scanning me so thoroughly." "Yeah, well, my mother always said I moved too fast in relationships." Rivera's hands were already working, pulling emergency medical supplies from his kit. But everything he knew, Every treatment protocol was for humans or the species they'd already encountered. The Ashanti were still mostly a mystery, their biology as closely guarded as their jump drive technology. The energy signature pulsed and Lyrelay convulsed. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller. "It's not stopping." It was supposed to stop by now. What hit you? "I don't know." She laughed, bitter and short. "Isn't that ridiculous? Someone went to all this trouble to kill me and I don't even know what they used." Rivera pulled up everything his suit's computer had on Ashanti physiology, barely 3 pages, mostly speculation and diplomatic medical notes about food allergies. But one thing stood out: their enhanced healing factor. Every report mentioned it. Ashanti could recover from injuries that would kill a human 3 times over, which meant whatever was happening to her was specifically designed to counter that advantage. "Princess," he said, and watched her eyes widen slightly at the title. "I need to know, this energy signature, is it some kind of weapon your people know about? How did you never mind?" She tried to push herself up, failed. "No. This isn't ours. It feels wrong. Like it's eating me from the inside, using my own cells as fuel." Rivera's scanner beeped urgently. The energy had spread another 3 centimeters in the last minute. At this rate, she had maybe 20 minutes before it reached her heart, less if it hit other vital organs first. "Listen," he said, making a decision that would either save her life or end both of theirs. "I have something experimental. Military nanotech, not fully tested. It might be able to create a bridge between our physiologies, let me understand what's happening to you. And then I improvise." She stared at him for a long moment. "You realize if you connect our systems and can't figure this out, it might kill you too?" "Yeah, well." Rivera was already preparing the injection. "My ex always said I had terrible self-preservation instincts. Plus, if I let you die, your people will probably declare war on us, and I just got the coffee maker in Med Bay working exactly how I like it." Her laugh was more surprised than amused. "You're insane. Occupational hazard. This is going to feel weird." He pressed the injector against the exposed skin where her armor had cracked. The nanotech flowed in, and immediately his neural implant lit up with data. Not just biological readings, memories, sensations, the echo of her thoughts bleeding through. The assassination attempt hadn't come from the Dominion. The attack pattern, the specific targeting of her ship among dozens, someone in her own court had betrayed her. The weapon was designed for one purpose: kill the heir to the Ashanti coalition and make it look like collateral damage. "Well," Lyrelay said, her voice tight with pain and dark humor, "at least now when I die, someone will know I was murdered." Very theatrical. My mother would approve of the drama. Rivera felt the first tendril of the energy weapon through their connection, cold fire spreading through neural pathways, turning healing into harm. It was beautiful in its cruelty, elegant in its lethality. It was also something his human physiology might be able to stop. "Princess," he said, already knowing what he was about to do was stupidly dangerous, "how do you feel about really bad ideas?" "Considering I'm dying from one, I'm open to suggestions. I'm going to draw it into me. The weapon. My body doesn't have your healing factor, so it won't have anything to fuel itself with." She tried to pull away, but she was too weak. "That's not a bad idea, that's suicide." "Maybe, but my nanotech is already adapting, learning, if it can figure out how to neutralize this thing. You'll die, or we'll both live." He managed a grin she couldn't see through his helmet. "I'm an optimist. You're an idiot. That too." He began reconfiguring the nanotech, setting up the parameters for the transfer. "But I'm your idiot now, apparently." The energy weapon pulsed again, stronger this time, and Lyrelay's scream cut through the vacuum like a blade made of sound. The field hospital materialized around them in a shimmer of emergency transport protocols, the sudden transition from vacuum to atmosphere making Rivera's ears pop painfully. He'd burned through a month's worth of emergency transport credits in 3 seconds, but explaining that to command would be tomorrow's problem. Today's problem was convulsing on the medical bed, her bioluminescent blood now painting abstract art on the sterile white floor. Medical override, authorization Rivera 77 kilo. He barked at the automated systems. The surgical suite came alive, robotic arms descending from the ceiling like curious spiders. Full trauma protocol, unknown alien physiology, biological weapon contamination. Classification, Ashanti Coalition Royal Genome detected, the medical AI announced with infuriating calm. Warning, insufficient data for treatment parameters. No kidding. Rivera was already pulling up every piece of xenobiology data the station had, his neural implants sorting through thousands of files in seconds. The nanotech connection between them pulsed, and suddenly he could feel what she felt. Fire ants made of plasma crawling through her veins, each heartbeat spreading the infection further. Lyralay's eyes flickered open. Your medical bay ceiling is ugly. If I'm dying, couldn't you at least give me something pleasant to look at? Budget cuts. Rivera adjusted the scanner, trying to map the weapon's progression. We spent all our aesthetic funds on keeping people alive. Terrible priorities, I know. She tried to laugh, but it came out as a wheeze. My father would have the architect executed. Your father sounds like a reasonable man. He once declared war on a trading consortium because they served him lukewarm tea. Okay, less reasonable. Rivera frowned at the readings. The weapon wasn't just spreading, it was learning, adapting to her immune system's attempts to fight it. Every time her enhanced healing tried to repair the damage, the energy weapon converted those same healing cells into more fuel for itself. It was brilliantly horrific, like a forest fire that convinced trees to pour gasoline on themselves. Doc, one of his human nurses, Specialist Chen, burst through the door. We've got 3 more critical coming in, and holy shit is that. Yes, and she's dying. Rivera didn't look up from his work. Unless you know anything about Ashanti bioweapon countermeasures, get out. Chen backed toward the door. The commander wants a report. Tell him I'm busy committing several treaty violations to save alien royalty. I'll fill out the paperwork if we survive. The door hissed shut. Through their connection, Rivera felt Lyralay's amusement despite the pain. Several treaty violations. Oh, at least 5, maybe 6 if I'm creative. He initiated another scan, this time focusing on the quantum signature of the weapon. Your people are very specific about medical procedures on royalty. Something about sacred blood and not letting inferior species poke around in your insides. And yet here you are poking. Her voice was getting weaker. My ancestors are probably cursing your entire bloodline. Joke's on them, my bloodline's already cursed. 3 generations of doctors, all with terrible handwriting. The scan completed, and Rivera felt his stomach drop. The weapon had a quantum signature all right, one that suggested it existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. It wasn't just killing her in this reality. It was ensuring she died in every possible quantum state. That's impossible, he muttered. What's impossible? This weapon, it's quantum locked. It's killing you across multiple dimensional probabilities simultaneously. Even if I stop it here, other versions of it in parallel dimensions will keep feeding energy back into this one. Lyralay was quiet for a moment. That seems excessive for an assassination. Right. Whatever happened to good old-fashioned poison? Or a knife in the back, classic, elegant, personal. You're romanticizing your own assassination attempt. I'm dying. Let me have this. Rivera pulled up his experimental nanotech's control interface, an unholy mess of military code and his own modifications that would have given his old professors nightmares. The connection between them was stable, but drawing the weapon into himself would require synchronizing their nervous systems completely. He'd feel everything she felt, and vice versa. Okay, new plan, he said, fingers flying across the holographic interface. I can't stop it in every dimension, but I might be able to collapse its quantum state into this one reality. Human, if you scramble my brain, I'm going to haunt you. Can Ashanti become ghosts? We become something worse. We become your performance review. Rivera snorted despite himself. The synchronization hit 20%, and suddenly he could hear her thoughts more clearly. Terror masked by humor, pain wrapped in royal pride, and underneath it all, a loneliness that came from knowing someone you trusted had tried to kill you. It was someone close, wasn't it? He said quietly. The assassination. My cousin, I think. He always did resent being second in line. Her mental voice was different from her physical one, colored by emotions human language couldn't quite capture. Though using a multi-dimensional quantum weapon seems like overkill, he could have just asked nicely. Being air is exhausting. 40% synchronization. Rivera's vision began to fracture, seeing through her eyes and his own simultaneously. The medical bay overlaid with memories of crystal palaces and seas that glowed with their own light. Your world is beautiful, he said. You're seeing my memories. Just flashes. Is that really your palace? It looks like someone built it from frozen music. Frozen music. Even through the pain, he felt her pleasure at the description. I'm stealing that for the next diplomatic reception. 60%. The weapon noticed what they were doing. It surged, trying to complete its work before Rivera could interfere. Lyreley screamed, her back arching off the bed, and Rivera screamed with her, their pain completely shared now. Still think this was a good idea, she gasped. Ask me if we survive. His hands shook as he initiated the transfer protocol. Fair warning, this next part is going to hurt. More than having my cells converted into quantum fire, different kind of hurt. Like your soul is being pulled through a cheese grater. You have such a way with words. Medical school didn't cover bedside manner for multi-dimensional weapon extraction. 80%. Rivera could feel the weapon's intelligence now. Because of course it was sentient. Because why make a simple assassination tool when you could create something with the capacity to hate? It recognized him as a threat, started trying to burn through the connection to reach him. Come on then, he muttered, opening his own biological systems to create a path. Let's dance. The weapon took the bait. It flooded toward him, eager for new fuel, not realizing that human physiology lacked the specific genetic markers it needed to sustain itself. Rivera felt it enter him, ice and fire, and the sensation of being unmade one atom at a time. No, Lyreley tried to break the connection. It's killing you. That's the idea, he gritted out. It can't survive in me. Different biology, like trying to run software on incompatible hardware. That's the stupidest plan I've ever heard. You haven't heard my plan for getting us both dates to the victory celebration yet. We're literally dying and you're thinking about dating. Multitasking. The weapon was fully in him now, thrashing like a living thing as it realized its mistake. His nanotech swarmed it, learning its structure, building antibodies that shouldn't exist. Besides, near-death experiences are very romantic. You're insane. We covered that already. His vision was going dark. The weapon might be dying, but it was taking him with it. His heart stuttered, stopped, restarted with a violent lurch. But hey, at least your ancestors won't curse my bloodline. Can't curse what's already dead. Through their connection, he felt her tears. They burned like stars. The neural link transformed into a kaleidoscope of sensation. Rivera wasn't just feeling the weapon anymore. He was experiencing it across every possible interpretation of pain the human nervous system could generate. His body interpreted the quantum poison as burning, freezing, electrocution, and somehow, inexplicably, the sensation of listening to bad elevator music for eternity, all simultaneously. Your pain receptors are weird, Lyreley's voice echoed through their connection, tinged with her own agony but also something like bewilderment. Why do humans have a specific neural pathway for social embarrassment? Evolution wanted to make sure we remembered our mistakes. Rivera's hands clenched the medical bed hard enough to leave indents. The weapon was dying in him, but like any cornered animal, it was fighting viciously on its way out. Also explains why I still cringe about that time I called my teacher Mom in 3rd grade. Through the link, he felt her accessing that memory, 8-year-old James Rivera, frozen in mortification as his entire class laughed. Despite everything, she giggled, actually giggled while they were both dying. Your teacher had the same hair as your mother. That's what I said. No one believed me. Dark veins spread across his skin like someone was drawing a map of every blood vessel with black ink. The medical AI kept trying to intervene, but Rivera had locked it out. Standard procedures wouldn't help here. Fair warning, I'm about to try something really stupid. Stupider than absorbing a multidimensional assassination weapon. I'm going to manually override my nanotech and tell it to evolve. There was a pause in their shared consciousness. That's not how evolution works. It is when you're desperate and have military-grade experimental tech. His fingers flew across the holographic controls, rewriting code on the fly. I'm giving it permission to rewrite itself based on what it's learning from the weapon. Either it figures out how to neutralize this thing, or it turns me into very expensive medical goo. Medical goo, technical term. The nanotech responded to his commands with what felt like enthusiasm, if microscopic robots could be enthusiastic. They swarmed the weapon's quantum signature, died by the millions, rebuilt themselves, died again. Each iteration learned something new, evolved a little further. Rivera could feel his DNA being rewritten in real-time human biology, incorporating impossible elements. Through it all, their memories kept bleeding together. He saw her childhood, growing up in crystal halls where music was architecture and light was language. She saw his, Newark, New Jersey, where the only crystals were the broken glass in alleyways, and the closest thing to magic was his grandmother's Sunday cooking. Your grandmother threatened a recruiter with a wooden spoon, Lyreley observed, latching onto the memory like a lifeline against the pain. He showed up during dinner. You don't interrupt an Italian grandmother's Sunday dinner. Another wave of agony as the weapon realized it was being dissected, studied, turned into antibodies. She made him sit down and eat 2 portions before she'd even look at the recruitment papers. I like her. She would have liked you. She had a thing for strays. Rivera's heart stopped again. The medical AI broke through his lockout just long enough to restart it with a jolt that made his teeth rattle. Though she would have tried to feed you. A lot. You're too skinny by her standards. I'm royalty. We're supposed to be elegantly slender. She'd call you a chicken bone and make you eat until you couldn't move. Through their connection, he felt something shift in her, not just the pain, but the loneliness he'd sensed earlier. That sounds nice, being fussed over. My mother died when I was young, and my father shows affection through military procurement budgets. He buys you weapons to show he loves you. Last year he gave me a dreadnought for my birthday. Most kids just get a car. The dreadnought was smaller than my cousin's. The weapon convulsed in Rivera's system, making one last desperate attempt to complete its function. His vision went white, then black, then started cycling through spectrum humans definitely weren't supposed to see. He was pretty sure he could taste colors now, and purple was surprisingly spicy. Rivera. Lyreley tried to pull the weapon back into herself, but he held the connection rigid. No, we're almost there. The nanotech is, oh, that's interesting. What's interesting? Interesting is never good in medical situations. It's creating antibodies by translating the weapon's quantum signature into a biological virus, then engineering an immune response that exists partially outside normal space-time. He coughed, tasted copper and stardust. My old biochemistry professor would either be fascinated or have a stroke. You're having a stroke. Minor one, maybe. The brain's overrated anyway. His left arm had gone numb, but his right was still working, still inputting commands. The nanotech was close, so close to cracking the weapon's code. Hey, if I end up brain damaged from this, will your people still have to honor the life debt thing? Life debt. You know, save the princess, get a life debt, standard fairy tale rules. That's not how. She stopped. Through their connection, he felt her accessing his memories of human fairy tales, the stories his mother read to him before she died. Your stories are strange. Why do so many involve princes kissing unconscious women? Questionable consent laws in medieval times. Another convulsion. This time he definitely tasted the color purple, and it had notes of existential dread with a hint of lime. Though to be fair, your culture's epic about the warrior who married a star is also pretty weird. She loved him so much she burned him to atoms. See, weird. It's romantic. It's homicide, romantic homicide. Despite everything, Rivera laughed. It came out as more of a wheeze, but still. Here he was, dying in the most bizarre way possible, arguing about fairy tales with alien royalty whose memories were currently taking up about 30% of his brain's processing power. The weapon made one final surge and Rivera's heart stopped. Not the stuttering stops from before, this was complete cessation. The medical AI screamed alarms. Through their fading connection, he felt Lyralay's terror spike. No, 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 you stupid, brave, ridiculous human. She was trying to force her own life energy through the link, her regenerative abilities attempting to restart his heart. You don't get to die being noble. It's such a cliché. Better than dying from food poisoning, he managed to think at her, his consciousness starting to fragment. My uncle went that way, bad shellfish, very undignified. Stop making jokes while dying. It's literally my last chance to be funny. The nanotech suddenly surged with activity. It had done it, cracked the weapon's code, created the antibodies, figured out how to exist in quantum superposition just long enough to hunt down every version of the weapon across multiple dimensions. Rivera felt it working, felt the weapon dying not just in this reality but in every possible reality. But his heart still wasn't beating. "Come on," Lyralay whispered, tears streaming down her face. She was pushing everything she had through their connection, memories, energy, fragments of her own soul. "You saved me. Let me save you." "That's not how this works," he tried to tell her, but his thoughts were getting fuzzy. "Different biology, remember. Then we'll make it work." She reached for his hand, their first physical contact outside the medical connection. "My people have a saying, the heart that beats for another never truly stops." That's beautiful and medically inaccurate. "Shut up and let me save your life." Her regenerative abilities flooded through the connection, but changed, adapted by his nanotech into something that could work in human biology. Not healing him back to human normal, but to something new, something in between. His heart stuttered, stopped, started, kept beating. "There," she breathed, exhausted. "Now we're even." Rivera opened his eyes to find her face inches from his, those violet eyes filled with tears and relief, and something else he was too tired to identify. "We're not even. You're a princess. I'm pretty sure saving you is worth like at least 3 human lives, maybe 4. Shut up. Make me, your highness." She looked at him for a long moment, then said with perfect seriousness, "If you weren't currently dying and also covered in medical gel, I would hit you with something heavy." Promises, promises. They lay there in shared exhaustion, the connection between them slowly fading but not disappearing entirely. Rivera could still feel echoes of her thoughts, and he knew she could feel his. They had become something unprecedented, two consciousness that had touched so completely they could never be fully separate again. "So," he said eventually, "think this counts as a first date." Her laughter was exhausted but real. "Worst date ever? I don't know. We shared memories. I met your family through neural interface. We literally became one consciousness for a while. That's at least third date territory." "You're impossible." "Yeah, but I'm alive. We both are." "That's pretty impossible too." She squeezed his hand, and through their residual connection, he felt her complete thought. Impossible, improbable, and absolutely worth it. Rivera woke to the sound of arguing, which meant he was either alive or the afterlife had a terrible sense of humor. Through the med bay window, he could see Lyralay facing off against what looked like half the Ashanti diplomatic corps, her ears practically vibrating with indignation. 3 days, according to his neural implant. He'd been unconscious for 3 days. "He's a human," one of the diplomats was saying, his elongated ears rigid with disapproval. The biological contamination alone, that contamination saved my life, Lord Ketran. Lyralay's voice could have frozen helium. Or would you prefer I had died? I'm sure my cousin would appreciate your support for his succession. Ketran went pale. Apparently that particular shade of bone white was universal for "oh shit" across species. Your Highness, I would never. No. Then explain why a quantum assassination weapon specifically keyed to royal genetics found its way past 14 security checkpoints. Rivera tried to sit up, immediately regretted it. His body felt like it had been disassembled and put back together by someone working from a translated manual. The movement caught Lyralay's attention through the window. She abandoned the argument mid-sentence, leaving Ketran sputtering to empty air. You're awake. She entered the med bay like she owned it, which Rivera supposed she technically might. How do you feel? Like I French-kissed a quantum weapon and lived to regret it. He accepted the water she offered, noticed his hand had a faint shimmer to it like oil on water. Please tell me that's temporary. The iridescence. No. The good news is you'll live about 300 years now. The bad news is you'll sparkle slightly in direct sunlight. I'm a vampire. You're a medical impossibility. She sat on the edge of his bed, and he noticed the careful way she moved, still recovering herself. Your nanotech didn't just create antibodies. It incorporated parts of the weapon's quantum structure and fragments of my regenerative abilities. You're essentially a walking vaccine against multidimensional assassination attempts. That's got to look great on a dating profile. Through their residual connection, weaker now but still present, he felt her amusement mixed with something warmer. Speaking of impossibilities, that recording has been interesting to explain. Recording. She pulled up a holographic display. Security footage showed Rivera absorbing the weapon, his body convulsing as dark veins spread across his skin. The timestamp showed 14 minutes and 37 seconds of pure agony condensed into a moment of choice, him refusing to let go even as his heart stopped. Every Ashanti world has seen this, she said quietly. A human who chose to die rather than let their princess fall. My father has watched it 47 times. 47. He's very thorough. He wants to adopt you. Rivera choked on his water. Excuse me. It's mostly ceremonial. You'd get a title, lands on 3 worlds, and the right to attend family dinners. Fair warning, we argue about trade routes over dessert. Your family discusses economics over dinner. Your grandmother threatened people with kitchen utensils. Fair point. Rivera noticed more figures appearing in the window, humans in military uniforms looking simultaneously proud and annoyed. He's gifted that way. The door opened and Byron himself entered, a bear of a man who looked like he bench-pressed spacecraft for fun. Rivera, you absolute moron. Good to see you too, sir. You nearly started a war, ended a war, created a medical breakthrough, and became alien royalty. Do you know how much paperwork that is? A lot. My wrist hurts from signing forms. Byron's expression softened marginally. Good work, son. Stupid, reckless, impossible work, but good. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. The Ashanti want to give you a medal. The ceremony is 6 hours long. Rivera groaned. Lyralay laughed, the sound like bells made of starlight. Through their connection, he felt her genuine joy, not just at being alive, but at this absurd moment of human complaint about ceremonies. Byron left, muttering about diplomatic protocols. The silence that followed felt comfortable, which was weird considering Rivera had technically been dead less than 72 hours ago. They found him, Lyralay said suddenly. My cousin. He's confessed to arranging the weapon, though he claims he didn't mean for it to be so thorough. He accidentally used a multidimensional quantum assassination device. He says he thought it was just regular poison. Oops. Oops, she shook her head. He's been exiled to a mining colony. Father wanted to execute him, but I argued for mercy. Why? Because a human showed me that even impossible situation can have unexpected solutions. She paused, That was too sentimental, wasn't it? Completely out of character. I'm calling medical. She laughed again, and this time he felt the layers in it through their connection. Relief, exhaustion, and something deeper. The loneliness he'd sensed during their neural link was still there, but softer now, less sharp-edged. The connection, he said carefully, between us, it's permanent, isn't it? The medical teams think so. We're quantum entangled at a neurological level. I'll always sense you and you'll always sense me. She looked at him directly. Is that going to be a problem? Depends. Do you have any embarrassing habits I should know about? I sing in the shower. Everyone does that. In 3 octaves simultaneously. It's an Ashanti thing. That's actually kind of impressive. I also eat dessert for breakfast when I'm stressed. That's not embarrassing, that's just good sense. Rivera felt the connection pulse with warmth. Though I should warn you, I talk to medical equipment when I'm working. Full conversations. The nurses think I'm crazy. You are crazy. You absorbed a quantum weapon. You're the one whose father declares war over cold tea. Lukewarm tea, there's a difference. They were quiet for a moment. Then Lyreley pulled up another holographic display. This one showed star charts, political boundaries, shifting colors representing allegiances. The Dominion has requested peace talks. Seeing a human sacrifice himself for Ashanti royalty has shifted the narrative. We're no longer the outsiders and the established powers. We're just people. People who occasionally sparkle in sunlight, apparently. The iridescence is actually quite attractive by Ashanti standards. Yeah. You'll be fighting off suitors at the ceremony. Rivera groaned again. Please tell me you're joking. 3 noble houses have already sent interest inquiries. I've been conscious for 20 minutes. You're famous. The human who walked into death and brought back a cure. She tilted her head. Though I should probably mention you're under my house's protection. Anyone wanting to court you would need my permission. Court? Who says court anymore? Alien royalty. We also say whilst and heretofore unironically. Terrifying. Rivera managed to sit up properly this time. His body still felt weird, too light in some ways, too heavy in others, but functional. So what happens now? Now you heal. Then there's the ceremony, the adoption proceedings, the medical conferences where everyone wants to study your impossible biology, and probably 3 dozen marriage proposals. From your people. From everyone. Do you know what the genetic pats alone are worth for multidimensional immunity? I'm not letting anyone patent my genes. Too late, I already did. What? Kidding? She grinned at his expression. Mostly. I did patent the process, but the proceeds go to funding medical research. Seemed appropriate. You're terrifying. I'm royalty, it's part of the job description. Her expression softened. But seriously, Rivera, what you did. My people don't have adequate words for that level of sacrifice. Sure you do. I learned it through our link. He reached for the word in her language, the one that had no human equivalent. Kethari. The gift that creates rather than takes. Her eyes widened. You shouldn't be able to pronounce that. Yeah, well, I shouldn't be alive either. It's been a weird week. He swung his legs off the bed, testing his balance. Want to get out of here. I've been unconscious for 3 days and I'm starving. The cafeteria food here is terrible. I know a place. Well, new, it might have been destroyed in the attack. The sandwich shop on level 7. You read that from my memories. It seemed important to you. She stood, offered her arm for support. They rebuilt it yesterday. Priority reconstruction. A sandwich shop was priority. The owner's grandmother threatened the reconstruction committee with a ladle. Italian grandmothers are a force of nature. Apparently they transcend species. They walked out together, ignoring the stares from medical staff, diplomats, and military personnel. Through their connection, Rivera felt Lyreley's mixture of exhaustion and determination, her relief at being alive tempered by the political complexities ahead. You know this changes everything, she said quietly. A human and Ashanti bonded at a quantum level. The anthropologists are having breakdowns. Good or bad breakdowns. They've started a betting pool on whether we'll cause a diplomatic incident or usher in a new era of peace. What are the odds? 60-40 in favor of incident. Those aren't terrible odds. They don't know about your grandmother's recipes. I'm going to share them at the next diplomatic dinner. Rivera stopped walking. You wouldn't. Carbonara made properly, with guanciale instead of bacon. My father will propose an alliance before the second course. That's cheating. That's diplomacy, she smirked. Besides, someone has to make sure you don't sparkle alone at official functions. Through their connection, he felt the truth under her words. Gratitude, affection, and the promise of something that transcended species, politics, and the impossible. Partners? He asked. Until the stars burn cold, she replied in both languages simultaneously. That's a long time. Well, you do have 300 years now. Might as well make them interesting. As they entered the sandwich shop, miraculously intact, except for one wall now featuring what looked like ladle impact marks, Rivera realized he could feel the shift in the station's atmosphere. Humans and Ashanti sitting together, sharing meals, the first tentative steps towards something unprecedented, all because he'd been too